Hey there, today we're going to talk about inscribed angles. So an inscribed angle is actually drawn on the circle. The vertex is on the circle and the sides of the angle are the two chords. So an inscribed angle is an angle with the vertex on the circle with the two sides that are chords. And then the intercepted arc right here is the arc that lies between the two endpoints of the inscribed angle. The measure of this arc is going to be double the inscribed angle, or the inscribed angle is going to be half of their intercepted arc. All right, so in this case, the measure of AB is going to be half of the measure of arc AC. So whatever AC is, let's say that's 80, then the angle that the inscribed angle is going to be 40. All right, let's put some of these into practice. What is the measure of JML if we know that this angle is 88? Well, that's going to be double because the angle is going to be half of it. So that's going to be 176. The measure of JML is 176. And I hope that you remembered we talked about if we had a central angle, the measure would be the same. If this was 40, this would be 40. But now we're talking about an inscribed angle. So if this is 40, this is going to be 20. It's half of the intercepted arc. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. The next one says WXY. The measure of WXY, we need to know that if we know that the intercepted arc is 62. So we're going to do half. I'm trying to find my pen, so sorry. Okay, so we need half of the 62 they gave us, which is going to give us 31. So the measure of WXY is 31 degrees. Now they want to know the measure of JKL. They didn't give us anything, but we know the whole circle is 360. So if we do 360 minus whatever this is, 118, we'll get the rest of it. And the rest of it is 242. Okay, so all of this intercepted arc is 242, and we know that the angle is going to be half of that. So that's going to be did I do that wrong? 121 degrees. Let me check that real fast. Okay, that looks good. So now let's move on to this one. They are telling us that the intercepted arc is 4x plus 58. We know that 67 is half of that. So we can write it any way we want. Let's just go like this. Let's say 67 is 1/2 of 4x plus 58. That is one way to write it. Or another way might be to write it that 2 times the 67, which I think might be easier, 2 times the 67 is going to give us 40x plus 58. Whatever is better for you. Twice this amount is going to be 134. And we're going to bring that 58 over. So 19, the measure of x is 19. All right, if you had done it this way, then you would just distribute that half to each item and then continue as you're used to. A new concept also is, well, what if your inscribed angle intercepts a diameter? Well, this one you could probably figure out what's going on. A diameter, we already know, is half the circle. So this is 180. So your inscribed angle will be 90 degrees if it intercepts the diameter. So if an inscribed angle intercepts a diameter, then it is a right angle because half of the 180 intercepted arc is 90 degrees. The measure of BAC is 90. So that's going to help us with these next examples. we see this inscribed arc is intercepting the diameter, so we know that 13x minus 1 equals 90. So 13x equals 91, and x equals 7. And then it says the measure of PQR. Well, what about the measure of PQR? Sorry, PQR goes this way. It's intercepting the diameter, so it's half of the 180. It's a right angle and 90 degrees. All right, our next section has overlapping arcs. So if two inscribed angles share the same arc, then it makes sense that their angle measures are going to be congruent. So if they intercept the same arc. So for instance, let's just highlight a couple here. Whoa, that is not what I meant to do. Okay, let's go here. All right, so if BAC are sharing this one, and BDC are also intercepting the same arc, then their measures are just going to have to be congruent with each other because they're both going to be half of that measure. So in this case, ABD, let's see what they want here. Let's erase. So the measure of ABD, okay, is going to be congruent with which other angle? It's going to be this one because they're sharing the same intercepted arc, so ACD. All right, let's move on to the next examples. What do we know here? We know this is 64. We know this is 139. They want the measure of RST. Oh dear, sorry guys. Okay. RST is here. The intercepted arc is here, so we do need to know that. And we know these two are going to share the same amount. Ooh, and we do know that RST, that this portion's 82, because if we add the 64 plus the 139 plus the 75 plus this portion, it has to equal 360. So we know that that's 82. It's wanting the measure of RST, which we know is half of 82, so 41. And based on our overlapping angles that we just learned, overlapping arcs, we know that RUT shares the same arc, so it will also be 41 degrees. On number 2 right here, it says ABD is 6x plus 26. And ACD is 3x minus 9. They are both sharing the same arc. So since they share the same intercepted arc, we know that these angles must be congruent with each other. So let's just set them up to be equal to each other. So x equals 5, but they don't want to know x equals 5. They want to know the measure of AD. So they want to know the measure of this arc. That means we need to know one of these angles first. I'll just choose the blue one because that one looks a little easier to me to multiply the 5 to the 6. So that's going to be 30 plus 26, which equals 56. So we know the measure of B is 56, which means the measure of C is also 56. So let's just go ahead and write that. And we know the arc is going to be double that. So 2 times the 56 is going to give us 112 degrees. For the last section of this lesson, we're going to talk about inscribed quadrilaterals. Inscribed quadrilaterals, again, are just it's a quadrilateral that's drawn where the vertices are on the circle. So there we go. The rule about this, if you even remember about quadrilaterals, they equal 360 total. If a quadrilateral is inscribed in a circle, then opposite angles are supplementary. And just to give you, again, a little common sense piece to just realize why, this angle, okay, so why are these two supplementary with each other? Well, if you can see, the intersecting arc of A is all of this. The intersecting arc of C is all of this. Together they make 360. And you know the angles are half of whatever the arcs are. So together the angles make 180. That's why they are supplementary. So in this case, the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle C will equal 180 degrees. And so the same with the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle B will also give you 180 degrees. All right, once again, if we tried this one, number 1, this is giving us the angle of 93 for Q. We know that these two together make 180. So this gives us 87 for this amount right here. If this is 87, then we already know the measure of S, so we can go ahead and put that. How did we get that? Because 180 minus the 93 gave us this 87. In this case, the first one they're asking for is actually Q. The P. P has the intercepted arc of this. We don't know the measure of this, but we can figure that out if we take what this is here and subtract it from 360. So if we take that 360 and subtract this amount from it, we get 144. So we know this total arc measure is 144. And we know that the measure of P is half of the 144 since it's an inscribed angle. So the measure of angle P has to be 72 degrees. If we know that's 72 degrees, then we can go ahead and find R pretty simply also, because we can just subtract 180 minus the 72 and get 108. So the measure of R is 108 degrees. In this last one, they're telling us that the measure of L is 15x minus 23, and we know that L and N are supplementary to each other. So if we know what the measure of N is by adding the arc here and taking half of that, half of the 91 plus the 135 will give us N. N will half of, I'm not sure where I got cut off earlier, so I think I was here, then I added those to get 226. Half of the 226 gives us this 113, and we know that the two of these together will equal 180. So we can set up the measure of L's amount plus the measure of N's amount and equal it to 180. So 15x plus 90 equals 180. 15x equals 90. X equals 6.